Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Season 6, episode 78 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Lidskin. Jonathan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great, Sam. I am great. Been a great night of mid-major basketball, and a big show tonight ahead.
Yeah, big show. Tom Mosser is here with us. Tom, welcome back to Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. We love having you on.
Thanks, fellas. It's going fast. I think it was maybe it was late October that we did a preseason one, maybe early November, but probably late October. So
Yeah, late October.
I can't believe. Thought the other day, I can't believe it's February already. Somebody was referencing like a non-conference game in November, and I was like, man, that was almost 3 months already. So once the games start, they really fly by. So I can't believe it's February 5th already.
Yeah, this is the part of the season where like the days are long. It kind of feels like you're getting to March Madness. You're seeing March Madness hype build, but it's not March.
Yep, but you're a ways away. Yep.
Yeah, and then once you get into like mid-February, you really get into like the dog days of the season. But I think there's still some novelty to this right now. I mean, tomorrow night I'll be at the Garden for UConn St. John's. I can't wait for that. So, I mean, we've got a lot of Mountain West to talk, though. We're going to kind of reset the landscape on the league. We've got Utah State at first place with 10-2, picking up a win over New Mexico last night at the Pit, 86-66. And man, I didn't get to watch all of this game. I went to bed because Utah State pulled away in the early part of that second half. I just thought that the way they played, they hit some quick shots. They got out in transition. They got a series of stops, and they brought what was like a 36-33 game. And it was almost immediately in the second half that it was a 10-15 point game.
Yeah, they really came out of the locker room just a more aggressive team. In the first half, they launched a lot of threes. Look, Olin had a good defensive game plan, but Calhoun, they're both good at adjusting, but Calhoun really showed his chops here these last two games against San Diego State on the weekend and then last night in the Pit, adjusting, kind of taking away what the defense wants to do to you. And they just attacked the rim. New Mexico kind of was caught off guard by it. They were a step slow. They weren't on point all night. They made some shots, but they got good shots. They were just a step ahead. And they just, like you said, methodically pulled away, and dominated the second half. So really impressive to go into the Pit and win, period, let alone win by 20 points in that environment.
Jonathan, what did you see from Utah State in this game?
Well, yeah, kind of like Tom said, the aggressiveness stood out, and it's not just on the offensive end; it's on the defensive end with this team too. They force a lot of turnovers, and it makes me almost feel better about their upside when we get towards March. And you're looking at the Mountain West. Can't win in the tournament or anything like that, but Utah State's defense really stands out to me as something that could buck that trend, and they showed that last night.
Yeah, and I think kind of the key cogs in that, obviously we talk about Allen and Falslev. I think Elamine's versatility, Templin's size, they have guys, and I think what they're able to get from kind of their role players on the defensive side of the ball, because we know what Falslev and Collins are offensively. They're studs, but it's Elamine who is kind of the difference maker for this team if they want to be hitting their ceiling. Because if you remember, early in the season, he was not a big part of the rotation. He did not play very much in the Tulane and Davidson games that kind of first put Utah State on the national radar. Now he's starting. He's playing 35 minutes. He's scoring double digits, having a double-double. This was a guy that I really liked at Paul VI last year, and he has that type of game where he can make a highlight play out of anything. He makes things happen when he's on the floor. And that's why he's just been on the floor more. That's kind of what he's able to do. When he's on the floor, good things will happen for this team. And you're also seeing like Utah State doesn't need to play zone on 60% of possessions this year. They're down to, I think, 20% of possessions. It's still a good defense that they can throw in there, and they're 90th percentile in the zone. They're averaging below 0.8 points per possession with it. But the reason why they kind of fell apart in the middle of last season was because that zone got figured out a little bit.
Yep.
This year that's not been happening because they're not playing as much of it. They have more athleticism on the wings and on the inside. And they're 25th in the country in defense. They're number one in the Mountain West in offense, but they're 25th in the country in defense.
Yeah, well said. As far as last year goes, the matchup that Calhoun brought with him from the Horizon League got figured out. You know, he's done a good job of kind of mixing and matching defenses. He'll go zone, he'll go man, he'll play like a switching man, which is similar but different than a matchup zone, and it kind of keeps teams off balance. And he bases it sometimes on who the opponent is. And you know, the one criticism I will have with it, as Jonathan pointed out, they are very aggressive going for steals, very high steal rate, but they do foul a lot. Now, you know, as Mountain West fans will know, often the games are inundated with fouls. But you know, they do foul a lot. So that's something, you know, who knows what kind of crew you get in a tournament game. Last night, they wanted to let them play a little bit, but they couldn't. You could tell that they wanted to let them play because they let some stuff go early. But New Mexico in the first half was the aggressor, and they had to start calling stuff because Alberry and Hall and Haupt are driving to the hole, and they're getting hit, and they let some go. They have to call some, and before you know it, Utah State's got 11 fouls with like 3 minutes to go. So that's the one thing that they need to clean up. You know, you can play hard without fouling. They don't quite have that mastered yet. But to your point, you know, El Amin's a difference maker, and Templin's been giving him really good minutes. You didn't even mention guys like Gary Clark, who, you know, and Colby King, who they might not be consistent the same, you know, every game out, but they have flashes and they can, you know, go for 12 or whatever on any given night and just add another piece to the puzzle here for the Aggies.
Yeah, and I mean, Elijah Perriman as a freshman has given them really solid minutes. He's played less recently, but gives them high leverage minutes sometimes when they really need it. If Allen's not a go at some point in a game or whatever. And you see, they beat San Diego State on the weekend, held them to 0.88 points per possession. Obviously, San Diego State, not a very strong offensive team. But what they are able to do, Utah State kind of grinding that game out, and then going on the road and blowing out New Mexico, a New Mexico team that's really good, like 46th in KenPom. I feel like we haven't talked enough about them this year. Tom, what are kind of the cliff notes on them? Because I mean, I love Bullion, Tanet, Jake Hall, this freshman class. Can you give us a little more color on them?
So obviously it starts with Olin. I mean, you know, the conference has a lot of very good coaches. Olin's probably right near the very top. He's probably not very long for Albuquerque. I think they'll be lucky to get him. He may be back next year, depending on some of the other shuffling that goes on out west. I don't think you're going to see Olin be, you know, going all over the country to get out of the conference like Richard Pitino would have done, right? And like maybe a Ryan Odom has done. You know, Olin's a West Coast guy, and there's a select few jobs that could get him out of Albuquerque. Maybe this in 2 months, but more than likely like next year. But anyway, the talent is not at the same level that it is for San Diego State and Utah State. So Olin squeezes like everything out of this team because he's so detail oriented. He just gets the guys to do what he wants them to do, which is a coach's dream. I mean, if you mentioned a few guys, obviously Jake Hall's a sniper, a severely under-recruited guy. He was going to go to UCSD with Olin had Olin not gotten the job. That's where he was committed to. So it's not like he was flooded with offers from big-time schools and he chose to go play for Olin. No, he was going to go play in the Big West. You know, Bullion's a different guy because he's 23 years old. He's a freshman, but he's got several years of pro experience in Eastern Europe. He's a load. He's a very talented guy, okay? But beyond that, like Tanet has potential and he's talented, but he's a true freshman, right? And beyond that, you got guys like Haupt, who was a D2 guy at Point Loma. Antonio Chol was a JUCO All-American, but he's been pretty disappointing if you ask me. Alberry, who starts at the point, came down from Utah State. he's okay, but his ceiling is kind of capped. Like, he's not a great shooter. His assets are he just goes 3,000 miles an hour up and down the floor, and sometimes it gets you in trouble, and it did last night. And they're not very deep either. So, this is a team that when they go up against the more talented teams that they play, they're in trouble. Olin will keep them in the game because he's a fantastic coach, but it takes a lot of work for them to get over the finish line against more talented teams. No shame in losing to Nebraska. No shame in losing, the games that they've lost, maybe the New Mexico State game, but that was early in the season. But, they're kind of capped in what they can achieve is what came into focus last night for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I still look at what they do, and it's the similar strengths and weaknesses to that UC San Diego team from last year. Mm-hmm. They force turnovers. They don't turn it over. They hit shots. They shoot a lot of threes, not quite as many as last year. They don't necessarily have a Tyler McGuy. Mm-hmm. And they also don't have an Aniwa Tate Jones either. It's like, this is a very, if you keep the roster around next year with Bullion, Tannett, and Jake Hall, you're looking at a really, really good team. But they're and look, you've also got to remember with this group, Chris Howell has been out for a couple months now, and that's a guy that was one of the most important players for UC San Diego last year. So yeah, I think you're right about them kind of being a little capped, maybe in terms of their tournament upside. But like, who's to say this team can't make an NCAA tournament, Jonathan?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the metrics are good enough. They only have 5 losses. I don't have the full resume sitting right in front of me, but it's clearly a team of an NCAA tournament caliber.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say they do have a difficult finishing stretch here. They still have to go to Nevada, and that's like their 4th most difficult game. They have to go to Utah State in Logan. They have to go to Grand Canyon. They will not be favored to win that game, and they have to go to Nevada. So if they, now they can't, and they have to play San Diego State at home. So assuming, and that's a big assumption, you give them the San Diego State game at home, you have to win one of those other 3, if not 2 of them, and that's going to be very difficult to do, and it doesn't allow you any landmines anywhere else. They play Boise at home on Saturday. Like, Boise's, we know they have talent to play. Leon knows what he's doing. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room left because they don't have a ton of great wins. Their best wins are the home wins against Nevada and Grand Canyon. They did beat Mississippi State, but they are what they are this year. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room left. I hope they get in, and the conference's chance of getting 3 bids probably relies on them or somebody like Nevada or Grand Canyon winning the conference tournament. But they have tough games left, and I don't know that they can win 2 of those 3 games on the road. We'll see.
Speaking of Grand Canyon, I think they've actually been playing some really good ball recently. Got the chance to watch some of their film today, and just think that it's kind of what we've come to expect from a Grand Canyon team. They have great athletes. Jaden Henley has been just a total revelation for them. The step that he's taken kind of from last year to this year, and he was good last year, but I think he's even that much better this year. And this was a guy who was on that like god-awful DePaul team 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Brian Moore maybe hasn't been the level of player that I expected him to be, but he's starting to kind of round into form. He's had some really nice games recently. Nana Owusu-Anane has been really solid for them. So I think the fact that they have this lineup, they have size, they have athleticism, it's scaled up, and I don't think anyone was really concerned about the scaling up. It was more just like the volume of good games, not necessarily the quality of the team. But they've stood up to most of the tasks. They're 8-3 in the Mountain West, and I think they've been impressive so far.
Well, listen, they struggled in a non-con. I was not very impressed with what I saw from them in November and December, large portions of that. They definitely have kicked it into gear in the last month here. They were a total collapse against Nevada about 2 weeks ago. Was it a week? I don't even know anymore. One or 2 weeks ago, total collapse against Nevada with a questionable call at the end, from being 9-2 with wins over the 2 teams in first place. It'll be a 3-way tie, and technically with the tiebreakers, they'd be in first place right now. Now, they do have to go to San Diego State and they do have to go to Utah State. So it's going to be difficult for them to win those games. But as you mentioned, Moore has played better lately. Caleb Shaw, even though he's injured right now, has been very good, kind of taking Stromer's spot. They haven't gotten what they expected out of Stromer, but Demerol, the big Turkish big, he's played better lately. You mentioned Owusu Anane has played well. And look, let's give Bryce Drew credit. You guys probably have watched them more the last few years than I have. I didn't watch a lot of their stuff in the WAC, saw them in the postseason a little bit. Apparently, this is what Drew does. They round into form and they get it together. And I think their fan base kind of expects them just to go on and win their conference tournament because they do it every year. It's going to be a little bit different this year. Same venue in Vegas, but a little bit stiffer competition. But there's no doubt they are playing good basketball, and I wouldn't want to face them in a month in the Thomas and Mack Center. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, they always have athletes, and they most Bryce Drew teams are going to be better defensively than offensively. That's the case here. It's about those athletes coming together and playing team basketball that determines their ceiling. Last year, they didn't quite get that. Ty and Grant Foster didn't have a great year. But this year, I think they're playing really good basketball, clicking at the right time, and their defense has just been outstanding in conference play.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, if you ask me who's probably the most dangerous team, like who's the UNLV this year?
Yeah, who's the new UNLV?
Yeah, Grand Canyon is the new UNLV. Like, you really don't want to see them in March. But like, I actually don't think you're going to want to see them in March. UNLV just always loses in the second round.
Yeah, they were quarterfinal exits for what felt like 4 or 5 straight years.
Was it 2 years ago that they went like they went and like almost won the league and then lost in their first game?
Maybe. But yeah, like I mean, kind of like I said, you know, this Grand Canyon team in conference play alone, first in the conference in effective field goal percentage, and that's coupled with first in 3-point defense, first in 2-point defense. So they've really become just an elite defense here in the last month or so.
Yeah, definitely trending up. You know, again, some tough games to come. They will host New Mexico in the Pit next Wednesday, I believe. It's a late night TV piece, of course, and then the 2 big road games they're going to have to play. But I mean, listen, they've been in every game they've played, with the exception of the game at the Pit. And, you know, we know how difficult it is to play there, so you can't really knock them for that. They've won at Boise. They had the game at Nevada, couldn't quite close it out. But, yeah, they're rounding into form. If and when they get Shaw back, they'll be fully loaded. Drew has kind of shortened the bench a little bit. He's cut minutes of Breidenbach and Stromer a little bit. And so he's got the rotation set that he wants. More like, as you said, Sam has kind of rounded into form here. And yeah, this team they're playing good basketball. They seem to understand what their roles are. And as Jonathan said, the defense, it travels, man. Their defense has been very impressive. They got length. They got we didn't even mention Dennis Evans. You know, he was a massive factor in their wins at home against San Diego State and Utah State. Just he's not very muscular and he's not going to score in the paint a lot posting up, but he knows how to block shots and play defense on the interior. So they just got a lot of options. And I as you said, I would not want to see them in my half of the bracket in a month.
No, and I think that's kind of where we're at with the Mountain West right now. Of like, there's not a lot of teams that I think have tournament level resumes or anything near that, but there's not a ton of there's not a ton of easy nights out. Obviously, like Air Force and San Jose State are back.
Yeah,
but like Wyoming is a lot better than they have been. UNLV is not. Yeah, Wyoming's very well coached. UNLV is not an easy out. Fresno State is like actually decent. They're 5-6.
Yep.
And I don't think that there's as many easy games as there have been, and there's also not as many resume games as there have been. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in the Mountain West, of it kind of being a little bit mushier in the middle and better at the bottom.
Yeah, well, I think that's what a lot of myself and other media people that follow the conference kind of feared in the preseason, that this is what you were going to get, right? You're not going to get the number of quad one games that we had the last 2 or 3 years, when seemingly 2 out of every 3 games that you would play would be like top resume games, 1 and 2. Yeah, Air Force and San Jose have been in the pits, and that's fine. But Colorado State has fallen off this year, and it's not on Ali. They just turned over the roster. It's Ali's first year as a head coach. Nico moving over to Minnesota, obviously, and the Rams have been a little bit of a disappointment. Nevada has stepped back a little bit here. UNLV has they have some great wins. They won at Utah State. They won at Stanford. Memphis has been a disappointment. They won at Memphis early in the season, but yet they have really bad losses and efforts sometimes. And so it kind of tanks their metrics. But as you mentioned, all these teams, as I just said, UNLV can go and win at Utah State. Wyoming can show up and give everybody a game. Fresno has been very, very improved from over last year. And so, yeah, you pointed out perfectly, Sam. You're not going to get a lot of resume boosting wins, to compare it to Oklahoma State, right? That's a team on the bubble. They're okay, but they get the benefit of playing BYU, a team like BYU, 3 out of every 4 games, where if you just happen to play well one night, you get a quad one win. And our teams don't have that opportunity. We know that, though. So you can't drop the games like New Mexico drops to New Mexico State. You can't drop the games like Grand Canyon drops to Youngstown State. And that's just life as a mid-major team and all of that. But it's all right. The games have been very competitive. The league's been very good, and hopefully we got another month and a half of it, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to get just kind of a couple more thoughts out on here. Some San Diego State, 16-6, 10-2 in the conference. The only losses at Grand Canyon, at Utah State. They've played obviously not the they still have tough games ahead. Utah State, Grand Canyon, Boise State away, New Mexico away, Nevada home. But they are in position to make the NCAA tournament if they win the games they're supposed to win.
Yeah, look, as I think, some bracketologists were saying they might need to go 17-3. That's very difficult. Let's face it, they already have 2 losses, right? Now, they have to go to Utah State, right? And so again, they lost to Utah State. They have to host Utah State, but they do go to the pit. Do we expect them to win at the pit? I don't know. And they could go 17-3. The big thing is the personnel for them, because they've been playing, obviously, we know for much of the year, they haven't had Gwath, and even the games he played wasn't super healthy. But now, in addition to that, they're really missing Harrington, the freshman, who's been a pretty solid piece for them running the point. They don't really have a true point guard. Well, they thought they did with Sean Newman. He hasn't really fit the bill the way that they wanted. So they've gone with Harrington, the freshman. He's been very good, but now he's missed the last couple of games. They play Air Force on Saturday, so I'm pretty sure Dutcher will sit those 2 guys and not need them in theory, right, against Air Force, who really is one of the worst teams in the country. And then maybe next week when the games pick up against the quad 1 and quad 2s, then maybe you get the lineup full bore and you really make your push here for that tournament bid, because this was a team in the preseason that had Sweet 16 dreams and aspirations, and they really didn't get off to a good start, and it'll be really a shame and a disappointment if they wouldn't find themselves in the big dance in mid-March.
Yeah, and then obviously Nevada also having a strong season, maybe not. Kind of a little bit better than I expected them to be, in the 50s in KenPom right now.
Definitely.
8-4. Tom, what are your thoughts on Nevada?
Yeah, look, when you say that, I would not have expected their KenPom to be in the 50s or the 60s for that matter. Now, the one thing about Alford is that he does this. Last year, they were picked 2nd or 3rd. He's got some nice pieces. They crapped the bed. But this is not the first time that he's had a team that was picked down on the bottom half, 7th or 8th-ish, and he overperforms with those teams. So he seems to get the most out of teams that necessarily aren't the most stocked with talent. And that is a testament to how good of a coach Alford is. He really is. He's underappreciated because he's never gone to a Final Four. He's never, won anything, massively, whatever. Went to the tournament with several teams, but he's never really gotten to that next level, right? But he knows how to coach the game. They're kind of like New Mexico. They don't have the high-end talent. They've beaten the teams that they should have beaten, with the exception of UC Davis in a non-con, and they've lost to the teams that are better than them pretty much. The Grand Canyon game, they stole at home last week, but they lost at the Pit. They lost at home to San Diego State. They lost at Utah State. They just can't quite get over the hump against the good teams. They pretty much cooked their at-large goose on Tuesday when they lost up at Boise, right down at the wire. Actually went into overtime. They lost that game. They would have had a small chance if they would have won that. They would have really needed to perform well. But as I said, they still got to go to Viejas. Probably not going to win there. Can they sweep the board other than that? I don't know, because it would require them to beat both New Mexico and Utah State, and that's going to be a tough ask. So, look, they're probably a postseason team, be it in the NIT or the Crown if they so choose. And that'll be. Are they still doing the Crown or no?
8 teams this year.
Yeah.
Geez. Yeah. I mean, look, I wasn't a fan of it last year. Maybe Alford will just go in the NIT. They didn't play postseason ball last year. He's got a couple young guys. I could see them accepting a berth, and I hope they do. They deserve to play in some postseason ball, and they're probably not quite good enough to get in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. One last thing. Air Force Joe Scott got suspended a couple weeks ago. Do you think is that the most difficult job in the country? And if they end up moving on from him, what could their options even be?
Well, they're going to hire the interim is a former cadet, right? So they'll just get a former player or somebody like that. Now, the more important question here, and this is something that really, really needs to be discussed, because there's no doubt.
Should they be in the Mountain West?
Yes. It's by far the most difficult job in the country. Like Army and Navy get to play right here in our neck of the woods in the Patriot League against like-minded teams, right? Air Force has the same restrictions, can't go portaling, can't do NIL.
And I think they're even harsher on height requirements.
And they don't, yeah. Okay.
Navy has a 6'11" kid. I'm talking to him tomorrow.
Okay. So bottom line, I don't know how you initiate this, because they're one of your charter members. You wanted to keep them around when the conference was in danger of folding, when those teams bailed for the Pac a year and a half ago, and they stuck around. They're a good football member and some other sports too. But they are out of place in this league. And even next year, when the top half teams go, you replace with some, Hawaii's a decent team. The other ones, UC Davis, not Northern Illinois, they're football only. UC Davis and UTEP aren't going to move the needle much. But man, like Air Forces, what are they in their 340s right now in Ken Pom?
Yeah,
346.
Yeah,
they would be one of the worst teams in the MAC.
Yeah,
they would be in a dogfight to make it to Atlantic City.
That's awful. And I know
they are not better. They are not the best team. Hold on, let me make sure this is right. Let me make sure I have this right. Okay.
I do wonder.
Okay, 1 second.
Sam, while you're looking for that, Tom, like you said, I do wonder how something like that gets initiated, because the old saying, football drives, the revenue, and Air Force does have a competitive and good football program. They,
my question.
They're not always right at the top of the Mountain West, but they're always.
How much are you favoring Colorado School of Mines by over Air Force?
I mean, it's probably a pick 'em. I mean, I don't know. Air Force is no.
Mines is a good D2 program.
Are they good? Well, then they probably beat them by 7 or 8. I mean, Air Force is good. They're going to finish in the 350s because they're not.
Okay, never mind. They're 11-11 this year.
Oh, they are? Okay. I mean,
but Mines is typically good. They're typically good. They're typically good at football too.
To answer your question, Jonathan, I think the presidents would have to initiate it. I don't think the commissioner would do it. The presidents of the remaining schools are going to have to get together and propose it and say, look, we need to have a discussion about this, because they're going to finish in the 350s probably this year. They're going to finish 3-28 or whatever it is. And it's not just that they're 3-28. They are not even competitive in these games. I know the teams are way better than them, but it's bleak, man. They're down 30 in every game they play, every game. And
they've played, by my estimation, one game within single digits in conference play.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't even remember it. Maybe right at the start. I don't.
Yeah,
maybe,
it was
maybe
at San Jose State.
San
Yeah,
Jose State,
yeah, and if
who
you
is
look at the box
also
score,
pretty freaking bad.
well, not just that, but look at the box score for that game. San Jose State was missing half their roster. They that was during this stretch where they had no Kobe Garland, they had no Jermaine Washington, they had no Javon Hanna, and they had no Maundi. So they had no players, and they still won the game by like 8 or 9. So it's just, and again, it's not their
I miss
fault.
Yafet around here.
I
He
feel
was a fun
bad.
guy.
I don't like disparaging them. I don't see Joe Scott coming back. He probably doesn't even want to. By all accounts, people that, kind of cross paths with him in Vegas for Mountain West Media Days, they could just hear it in his voice. He knows what he's up against. It's not, how can it be fun to go to work and do that? This isn't like 8 years ago when you're scrappy Air Force and everybody's on the same playing field and you're a little lesser than them. This is just like guys are bringing players in with NIL funding and you don't have it. So it's not, I don't want to say it's not fair, but it's not a level playing field and something needs to be done about it, unfortunately.
All right, Tom, I really appreciate your time coming on the show. We've got a lot more stuff to get into. Mid-Major Thursday, a recap of the last week of basketball that we haven't been able to talk about on this podcast. Tom, anything else you want to add? Anything you want to plug?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully you guys can catch some of the good Mountain West stuff going on. We got about 4.5 weeks left before the tournament. I know everybody likes to catch the Mountain West Conference tournament. Try to catch some of the heavy hitter games we got coming up. A lot of big matches. We touched on all of them. So yeah. All right. Well, listen, appreciate you guys having me on.
I was on press row at GW watching the San Diego State Utah State game on Saturday. Don't say I don't watch the Mountain West.
Well, that's good. Look at you multitasking. Excellent. All right. Very good.
It's not just a good basketball league, but they have good TV deals, so they get good broadcast.
I've been saying this. The Mountain West to me is as close to a high major as you can get without being a high major, because you have packed crowds in big arenas with big schools playing on big TV networks in big time slots consistently throughout the week, with good broadcast production, top to bottom.
Well, that people ask me how I kind of got into following the Mountain West. One of the reasons was all of their games are accessible. Half of their games are on either FS1 or CBS Sports, and the rest of the games are on the app for free. You can watch 2 or 3 games at once. They spread them out. They're either Tuesday and Wednesday or Friday and Saturday. It's beautiful, and you get good 90% of the time. You get good announcing crews, like you said, Sam. Good production. The arenas are good. For the teams that are good, it's a good product. So it's a shame that it's changing in 6 months, but we've had a good run here, and I enjoy the heck out of it. So appreciate you guys having me on. Enjoy the rest of your mid-major chat, and we'll talk again.
For sure.
Thank you, Tom. All right, Jonathan, would you like to do mid-major Thursday first, or would you like to do the recap of the last week first? I think we should do mid-major Thursday.
Let's do mid-major Thursday first.
It's going to be mid-major Thursday of the entire week, though.
Yeah,
I have
kind of what
I have 8 teams written down that I want to discuss here.
Okay.
And that starts with Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah.
Who we've talked plenty about on the pod. 20-3 in 23 games. 13-1. Just beat McNeese at home to even up that season series and take a 2-game lead in the Southland. Just an impressive performance. Keon Thompson was great. Lateef Patrick made big plays. Krishan Christmas only had 4 points, but you felt his presence everywhere on the floor. I'm obsessed with this SFA team. This might be my favorite team to watch in the sport right now. They are so stout defensively, locked in on their game plan, locked in on their scout. They prevent threes. They can morph to kind of whatever they need to look like in a given spot, and they make big plays on that end. They are just so electric.
Yeah, we're now over 2 months, and they've lost 1 game in the last 2 months, and today goes.
And they've beaten the team and they've now beaten the team that they have 3 losses, and we talked about this. 3 losses by a combined 9 points.
Yep.
All of them on the road. All of them to teams that are in the top 150 in KenPom.
Yep.
All of them to teams that are good at UT Arlington, good defense. McNeese, good defense. Fresno, good defense. So maybe that's kind of the path. You got to be a good defensive team to beat them. But that's kind of thing. Like, they are far and away ahead of the Southland, them and McNeese. And Southland's not bad. Like, UTRGV is solid. Nichols is good. New Orleans is. New Orleans actually been really solid.
It's the 18th ranked league in the country. Like, it's
I'm just noticing this right now. Stacey Hollowell. We got to give a shout out. Has New Orleans 99 spots higher than preseason.
Yeah, they caught some eyes on opening night when they took down TCU, and there are obviously some other things going on with that program. So them performing the way they have this year is actually very, very impressive.
Yeah, it is. Anything else on SFA?
Yeah, just they play a really, really good drop coverage. They never seem to kind of lose. Contain's not the right word, but like they make you earn every single basket. We obviously talked to Matt Breyer a couple weeks ago on this show, but they're a good 3-point defense. They're a good 2-point defense, and they really, really make you work to earn every single basket. You have to move the ball to score against them. There's no one-on-one against them. They play really disciplined style. It's just a really excellent basketball team overall, and they're 87th in KenPom now. What a season!
Yeah, good for them. William and Mary gets the season sweep over UNC Wilmington. The Tribe have had a little bit of a rough go. They're 6-5. We kind of thought they would be a little bit better at this point. They've lost some games that they probably could have won. But man, this is still a really good basketball team that I don't want to see in my half of the bracket in Washington, D.C., because they come out and they can bang a couple threes on you and they can be up big. Tonight, they score 85 points, 1.25 points per possession against the UNC Wilmington team that we know is good. But UNCW, 8-2. Their only 2 losses are to William and Mary. They'll play at Charleston on Monday night on CBS Sports Network. That will be a big-time discussion point if we end up doing an emergency pod on Monday. That'll be talked about as well because there's Arizona, Kansas on Monday night. We're on watch.
So,
do you have any thoughts on WNM?
I watched a decent bit of this William and Mary UNCW game tonight, and it just felt like the opposite of the first time these two teams met this season. The first time William and Mary completely ran them out of the gym to start the game. UNCW looked like it had no idea what they were about to see with the style that Brian Earl's teams play. And tonight felt like the opposite. Like UNC Wilmington controlled it from the get-go, and William and Mary's style just completely wore them out. Like it was a total team effort. They hit 11 threes, 4 guys that are in double figures for William and Mary. And in the second half, it just felt like UNCW couldn't get a stop for the life of them.
Yeah, I don't know what Gavin Walsh's status is. Hopefully he's back at some point. I'll have to read into that, but that was a guy that gives them some boosts on the glass. They got killed on the glass tonight, 37-28. UNCW they have some size. They're not a small team whatsoever, but they need to be better on the glass than they were tonight. William and Mary did a really good job with that, and William and Mary is not a particularly good rebounding team. I think Brian Earl doesn't get it because you think so much about the system. I don't think they get enough credit for their versatility.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, Killian Brockhoff is a great passer. This team has 5 guys with 15% assist rates. That's a big number. Want to also shout out the NJIT Highlanders, 81-56 winners over UMass Lowell tonight, Jonathan. That makes them 7-2. 7-2. NJIT 7-2 in the America East. They have that win over Vermont last Saturday, which is their first ever win in front of Vermont fans at Vermont. They won the COVID year there. But if you'll remember, NJIT has only been in the America East since 2021, which was the COVID year. They had never won more than 6 games in America East. This year, they have won 7. Last 2 years, Grant Billmeyer's first 2, they won a combined 6. Now they have won 7. Grant, that is one of the most difficult jobs on the East Coast, Jonathan. I don't know if people really understand this. NJIT is a high academic institution.
Yeah.
It is not easy to take transfers there that are not either graduates or sophomores. So you can't really bring in the typical senior class. You can't really bring in a lot of D2 guys. You have to kind of develop your own guys. And Grant's first year, their team was basically all a combination of COVID grads and freshmen. They had, I think, like one player on the roster that was not either a grad transfer or either a grad student or a freshman, and that was Makai Gray, who was just a regular senior.
And even if you look at the roster now, like
and they lose Tariq, and you lose Tariq Francis last year, who kind of had a down year last year. I think he was better his freshman year. Now he's Rutgers' top scorer. He's like averaging like 18 a game in conference play or something like that. And it doesn't matter because you get Sebastian Robinson back, and you bring in a freshman with David Bolden, who has been electric. He only had 3 points tonight, but he had 7 assists. Ari Fulton has developed his game into a whole nother level this year. John Kelly has become a player for them. That wasn't something I was sure about, but Melvin Ibonkali, tonight he had 20 and 7. He's kind of been the difference for them since conference play started. He came back in the SUNY Canton game right before the Penn game. And then he started every game in league play, and they're 7-2 in conference play. They were not a very good team in the non-con. They got kind of blown out at home by Sacred Heart. They only scored 49 against Sacred Heart at home, 43 at Drexel, 53 against Fairfield. Sure, they started off strong. They started off 3-1. They had the Fordham win, which was great. The Loyola Maryland win at the buzzer. But they were not very good in most of non-con. And they've been straight up good in America East play.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see in conference play through for a little while, like a team will just, win close games, and part of it'll be variance, despite poor metrics. But this NJIT team has just legitimately started playing better. They have the number 1 ranked offense in the league, the number 2 ranked defense. They just have flipped the switch mid-season, and now they sit at 7-2 in the league. And if you look, Sam, towards the end of the season, what's always fun is we start looking towards, these mid-major leagues that have, possible games that could decide the league. NJIT hosts Vermont on February 21st.
I will be there. I will be there.
They host UMBC on March 3rd. 2 huge games that could decide the league.
Yeah. I have made a promise that if NJIT hosts the Saturday morning conference championship game, I will be there shirtless on press row.
Is this before? Is this before or after your trip to the casinos?
After.
Okay.
The trip to the casinos ends on Tuesday.
Would you be able? That's the early Saturday.
I'm 21,
right?
Yeah. I can do both.
So you would be able to double up.
If it's at NJIT, like absolutely, I could do both. Because it's like an 11 a.m. start.
Yeah. Now, if it was,
the Big East is 6:30.
Now, if it was at Vermont or UMBC.
No. I mean, if it were
unless we figured out a way to charge.
If it were at, I mean, obviously it won't be Binghamton because they're awful this year.
Yeah.
But say theoretically it were at Binghamton, I could do that, and then the next day, Ithaca for the what's it called? But no.
Yeah, the Ivy League. Yeah.
Yeah, but no. Utah Valley. Have you been following this story, Jonathan?
I was going to bring this up because it feels like something we need to discuss. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend
because this is legitimately probably the best team in that league by a decent margin.
Yeah, the conference record doesn't tell the whole story with them.
By the way, I could really see anybody kind of coming out of this conference tournament.
Now that Utah Valley's out of it, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm the, legal expert on whatever is going on here, but I will tell you this. I'm very high on this Utah Valley team. I think they are a legitimate 13 seed caliber team.
Well, nobody will ever know
if they ever, got the chance, but now they are barred from the conference tournament. They are barred from the NCAA tournament by a result there. And if I saw this correctly today, they are no longer getting their games broadcasted by the conference.
They are not. They are not. They will be on Synergy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good
But,
move
like,
for everyone who's able to avoid the two.
But you know what you know who I feel bad for? Like, not just the players, but like, what about the broadcasts, the producers? Those guys get paid to do this.
Yeah.
Like, what's going to happen to them? Like, are they just going to miss out on like a month of games that they expected to do and like have to just budget that? Like, that sucks. What about like that's ridiculous.
Right. Like, how are these guys getting paid now?
It sucks. But the other thing is, people just kind of assuming that like Utah Valley is like connivingly holding a war chest full of $1 million cash like away in a safe labeled "Do not give to the WAC" with it. Like that's not how this works.
Exit fee.
Like I and we haven't heard their side of the story yet. They probably like they probably have some reason why they don't believe that they have to pay it. But like, it's not like they just have $1 million laying around. Like, it's not a thing. Like, high major athletic departments usually don't just have like $1 million in a rainy day fund.
It would be great if they did, and it was just labeled like not for WAC exit fee to prevent Todd Phillips exit fee.
Yeah. Good team though.
Very good team. It's a shame that like
Merrimack is now 11-2 in the MAC. Beat Mount St. Mary's 87-70 tonight. Ernest Shelton and Kavere Kennedy combined for 52. You kind of know the story at this point with this team. Like it feels like I can read the same stuff every night. Kavere Kennedy is going to be the player of the year in the league. He's definitely trending.
Did I see they went on a 20-0 run?
23.
23. Okay.
Yeah, they 27-2 run. This is the best team in the MAC right now. They play at Ryder on Saturday. I will not be there. I will not see Merrimack again in person, I think, for the rest of the regular season.
All right. We'll see you in AC.
Yeah, they are going to go to AC. Great team.
Joe Gallo, he's an awesome coach, but he deserves a ton of credit for this team specifically. They lose like almost every important player, pretty much.
All 5 starters
from last year's team.
All 5 starters.
Yeah, that won the conference, and
they had 5. They had 5. They didn't win the conference. They had 5 starters that started every game except for Brian Atumnu missed the Stanford game. That was the only game that not all 5. That it was not Trumper, Atumnu, Bud, Becton, Savage.
Did they finish
and
second?
5 new starters
last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Second in lots in the semis.
Quinnipiac was the league champ, right?
Yeah, Quinnipiac's back-to-back reigning champ. Tulsa beats Red Blue FAU in Boca last night.
Good team.
20-3, 55th in KenPom, plays at South Florida this weekend. Hopefully I can get on the phone with Brian Hodgson to do a story before that game. I don't think I have time. I don't think he has time. Who knows?
It's a big one.
It's a big one. We'll talk about it. Probably not on Sunday.
South Florida's a game out of first in the league, trailing Tulsa. So,
all right. Now I have 2 kind of A10 things to talk about.
Okay,
Jonathan, we got to do it. No, not SLU. I know it's sacrilege to be flapping while wearing a Temple shirt.
Yeah, Dallahan's coming after you, man.
But St. Joe's 76, George Washington 73. Kind of George Washington falling off a cliff is the other storyline here. GW only attempted 22 shots inside the arc in this game. No Rafael Castro. And St. Joe's was 19 of 31 inside the arc. Kind of really bullied him inside. Ajabor had 3 blocks. But St. Joe's 7-3. Deuce Jones leaves the team in December. after that Syracuse game. You lose to Coastal Carolina. You lose your first 2 conference games, and now you've won 7 of your last 8. Only lost on the road at VCU. And you are currently sitting in double bye position, Jonathan. St. Joe's is in double bye position in the A10.
This is unserious. Like, and
the other crazy thing,
they don't even have like a terrible roster here, but with the talent that they've had the last 4 years or so, the fact that this team is like in position to get a double bye is just, it sums up everything that the A10 is right now.
Yeah. Steve Donahue, who never put together good defenses at Penn, now has the number 82 defense in the country and the number 229 offense. It's Groundhog's Day, Jonathan. Sorry, it's not Groundhog's Day. It's opposite day.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for Steve. I know my mom's very happy for Steve. My mom loved Steve Donahue. I'm happy for him. I think he was rightfully fired at Penn, but very glad that he's on his feet in a position to be winning games again. Because he was good for our family. I'm gonna come out he helped my brother a lot. Your brother was a manager there. You covered his senior night last year. My mom. If my mom likes someone, I should probably like that person too. Yeah. And then Duquesne 70, and then Duquesne 71, George Mason 65.
Yeah, this was bad.
Duquesne was playing without Jakob Natchez and Terrence Ginyard. What on earth happened in this one for George Mason, John?
The A10 happened, more or less. George Mason had lost 1 conference game headed into this. They had lost 2 games on the season, and they lose at home to a Duquesne team who's had a great year, but like you said, was missing some key players. This is not
great. Year is pushing it. Great year is pushing it. They didn't have a conference win against a team in the top 100.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
All right, you know what I'm going to do right now? We are going to bring on Kevin Fielder.
Okay.
And he is going to, I still have to send him the link. Kevin Fielder has just been sent the link. We are going to go over the big games from this week in high major ball, the biggest storylines from the week in high major ball.
Okay, well, before we do that, can we just talk about how good St. Louis is?
They're amazing. They're awesome.
They were down double digits last night, and the game was never in doubt at the end.
Yeah, unbelievable team.
They come out in the second half,
and the guy who might straight up be their best player on both ends is the guy who has been at times their best player on both ends played 12 minutes in that game.
Kellen.
Yeah, Kellen's their most electrifying player.
Yeah,
but
he's very easily arguable. It's very easy to argue he's their most important.
Yeah, but McCott, nobody on this team plays a ton of minutes, and it's unbelievable. This is the exact opposite of what we've seen the last couple of years with Josh.
And all of them are good.
Yeah. All right, Kevin.
Let's go.
Kevin Fielder, welcome back to Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers.
What's going on?
Can I get a red?
Red.
Blue.
FAU, baby.
All right.
Fake chance.
We're not going to talk about the last 6 games. Those didn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about.
No. We are going to start. We're going to take you all the way back to. We are going to take you all the way back to Friday night, where Michigan beat Michigan State 83-71. Michigan came out and absolutely swung for the fences in this game. They went on a huge run to start it. They went on a huge run in the end of the first half. They were up by 18 late in the first half. Yaxel Lendeberg was the best player on the floor.
As he typically is in these games.
And no, that's the thing. He hadn't been the best player on the floor for in some of the games previous, and it was why they weren't
playing well,
as dominant. But he was in this game. Jonathan, what were your biggest takeaways from Michigan State? Because we never got to talk about this.
I feel like Michigan had a counter to everything Michigan State had. And like, I don't like the Jeremy Fear stuff that's been going on is like completely independent of like my actual thoughts on him as a player. But Michigan State made a run, and you texted me like, oh, like, you know, this is a great fake comeback by Michigan State. And, you know, with the way the Breslin Center was rocking, the energy that
came back. They took the lead.
Michigan State was playing with, it didn't feel fake at all, but Michigan had the counter to it. Like you said, Yax was great. Elliot Cadeau made some massive plays down the stretch. And like his shot has clearly been figured out. He's shooting 40% from three this year. Like if you had told me that at the start of the year, like he was going to shoot this well, even like 37%, I would have told you, you know, everything I've said about Michigan, like amplify that. And I was as high as you could possibly be on them at the start of the year.
I really struggle to find many teams in college basketball right now who are better than Michigan and can beat Michigan in the tournament. And I know like it's kind of pointless to start calling these things in February, early February especially, but like I'm not sure Michigan has another game on that schedule that they lose. And I'm saying that knowing that they play Purdue, they play Duke, they play Illinois, they play, you know, maybe Iowa, Michigan State time of year. Like I understand all of that, but when you have as much talent as they do, you know, with Ade Mara, with Yaxa Lendeberg, with even Elliot Cadeau, right? Like I just don't know the ceiling for this team. Like I'm not sure if we've even reached it yet, which sounds incredibly crazy to say, but like you watch this team and Jonathan, you mentioned it, right? Like they've got a counter, they've got an answer for everything. And it feels like every time you watch them, they've got an answer to anything that another team throws at them. And that's like the scariest part of this is that we know what Dusty May can do in March. We've seen it now 2 different iterations with FAU, with Michigan. With the talent he's got now, Yaxel Lendeberg might be one of the best players in college basketball, right? Playing himself into, honestly, maybe like getting lottery consideration in the NBA draft. There's so much that he does that makes it so difficult to really see what everyone else does. And I say this knowing that I am like Dusty May's biggest fan on the internet, it seems like half the time, but I mean, it's crazy how good they've been, especially over the last like 5 or 6 games. It's scary to think that they may have not reached that ceiling quite yet. We're not going to talk about the Penn State game because I think that would just be a discussion about Penn State and why they are like the worst team we've ever watched. But
Kevin, you saw it firsthand, and like you can name a billion different good qualities about Dusty May, but the single best thing that Dusty May does is he takes unconventional rosters and makes them work. And when I did the Michigan preview with Dylan Smith in the offseason, the one thing that we kept hitting home was this roster is built really weird, but if Dusty makes it work, they have no weakness. And that's exactly what's going on. Like their defense is amazing. Their offense has only gotten better as the season goes on, and it just seems like the ceiling for this team is limitless.
It's so insane to like look at some of the rosters that Dusty May had at FAU, and to think that like those players probably don't work together in any like traditional sense.
Right.
Like Elijah Martin, Janelle Davis,
he was
Golden.
He was playing 4 wings and a center.
Yeah, he was playing 4 wings and a center. He'd play 4 guards and a center. He'd play 5 guards if he had to, right? Like it didn't matter. He'd find a way to win. And it's truly incredible. Like, and he's doing it again now with this Michigan team. Like the ways that they can beat you, the ways that they can line up and attack you, it's insane. Like we knew this team was going to be good, I think, but like,
yeah,
the way they're playing now is almost scary. And if they finish the rest of this slate, especially those like last 6 or 7 games, have to do it for meme purposes alone. But it's like if they do what I think they can do down the stretch, I would shudder in fear if I had to play them in the Sweet 16, because I think that they would just be a buzzsaw that I couldn't get past.
Yeah, obviously for Michigan, back to number 1 in KenPom, back to the number 1 defense in KenPom, playing back to playing really good basketball right now. They've got Ohio State coming up on the road on Sunday. But kind of on the Michigan State side of this, we got to get into the Jeremy Fears stuff.
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, what the hell? Like this is now
probably,
2 games in a row.
It's not even the egregious stuff too. Like that's obviously a huge part of it, and he probably should be suspended for some of this stuff.
No doubt.
But like it's also like the extra stuff that he does that like isn't malicious. Like Elliot Cadeau hit that like dagger 3 because Fears is like busy like flopping off of a screen. Like dude, fight through it and like close out. Like it's just he's too good of a player to be doing some of the stuff that he has done.
I thought it was
Tom
really
Izzo basically came out and Izzo basically came out and said that.
I thought it was really telling when Tom Izzo was like, "Hey man, I'm not sure if he starts our next game," because at some point I think it becomes a distraction.
He shouldn't.
It becomes a distraction.
They play Illinois on Saturday. We'll talk about this a lot tomorrow. He shouldn't start.
I'm not sure he should. I'm not sure he should. I'm not sure he should play.
He has to come in at the U16, but like he shouldn't start.
I think there's something to be said about like maybe he needs a game or 2 off. Because I think to some degree it's becoming a thing.
I don't think you can do that in college basketball.
You can't do it because Michigan State has too much to lose.
You can do it.
If this were the NBA and you played 82 games and the playoffs were a 7-game series and it didn't and not every game was under a magnifying glass, do it. If this were baseball and you get 162 games, do it. This is college basketball. You get 31 regular season games. You get 20 games in your conference, and every single one of them counts for the conference tournament, which counts for the NCAA tournament. And every single one of them counts for the NCAA tournament. You're just not in a spot where
the other thing is their next 2 games. The other things their next 2 games are Illinois and Wisconsin. You're not benching your best player against Illinois and Wisconsin. Like he's probably starting in both those games because they're going to desperately need him to play at a level that he's capable of to win those games. Like I think it's different if they're playing Rutgers and Maryland because you probably don't need him to beat Rutgers or Maryland. You probably don't need him to beat Penn State, right? But like you need him to beat Illinois.
Well, they needed him. They needed all they got from him to beat Rutgers.
Yeah, most of their easy games are out of the way too. Like, unless you believe he should be suspended, which like you could do that and like hide it as like hey, we're gonna give you 1 game off to reset yourself.
Conduct detrimental to the team.
Right.
The favorite wording for that.
But like, it's this has to be taken care of. It has to be calmed down because like you're right. It's a distraction.
Do we have any thoughts on their loss to Minnesota?
It's a tough place to go in. Like, not the first time Minnesota.
Is it? Like,
not I think so. It's a weird stadium.
I agree. It's a weird stadium, but like
it's like
that. But like
stadium.
That team lost to USC, Wisconsin, and Nebraska at home. Like
Minnesota's not good, but like they've done this multiple times. Not against like
I don't necessarily like in terms of places to win in the Big Ten. There's a lot harder.
Agreed. Like I just think that like the way Minnesota plays and like what they have done this season, like it's a tough team to scout. It's it's not an easy place to go play, and credit to like it's a tough guy to coach against. Nico's a good coach.
The other thing I think that kind of gets swept under the rug in some of these discussions is that like they were just coming off of a 12-point loss to their biggest rival at home. Like I think that plays a role in that, and so like. I've seen people like hit the panic button on this team and like, oh, they're going to be a round of 64 exit. I think that's a little excessive. I think there are certainly reasons to be concerned with how they play, reasons to be concerned with some of the Jeremy Fears stuff, reasons to be concerned that their last 3 games have not looked very good in any of those games. But like, let's see how they play in these next like 4 games. Because I think that once you get past Illinois, you get Wisconsin, UCLA, Ohio State, there's a chance you walk out of there 4-0. There's a chance you walk out of there 3-1, and the narrative shifts. And so I don't really have a lot in terms of that, just that one game. I am a little bit concerned though over the last like 3 games because I think that they've not been playing their best basketball, and with the way that their schedule is aligned, they got to figure it out pretty quickly because there's a chance it snowballs. And if this snowballs, I'm concerned.
To add to that, like, you know, Izzo's obviously been doing this a long time, and there's a reason that, like, you know, people say that like Izzo is Mr. March. He, like, despite how untrue, you know, that might be, but his teams always seem to peak at the right time. Like that is true, and I think that, like, you know, they could drop the Illinois game, and like you're right, like they're not playing their best basketball right now, but like Michigan State isn't this like flawless team. They've had offensive issues all year, and like some of them may have been amplified here. Their defense isn't playing as well. Some of that could just be natural shooting regression as well. Like it's just, I don't think that like there's any reason to panic yet. Like if this snowballs, yes, for sure. If the Jeremy Fears stuff continues, yes, for sure. But like I expect, you know, in a week or two, people to be talking about this team as, you know, they can get to a Final Four, they can go win the Big Ten tournament. You don't want to see them in your region in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. In Florida's last 8 games, this is how many points it has scored: 92, 91, 96, 98, 79, 67, 95, 100. That's pretty good. They are also they're the best rebounding team in the country. They are top 15 in offense, top 15 in defense. There's 13th and 7th. They have started to shoot the ball at least a little bit better, like
at a
marginally better,
below average level.
Like they made 3 threes against Alabama. Alabama made 14 threes. Florida made 3. The difference in this game in terms of 3-pointers was 21 points. The difference in this game by shots that were not 3-pointers, Jonathan, was 44 points. Florida won 100-77. They shot 56. They shot 65 2-point field goals and made 37 of them. They had 24 assists to 2 turnovers. Like, Charles Bediako played 24 minutes in this game and fouled out. And then he played 19 minutes. Like, Charles Bediako we don't know how many more games he's going to play. That's one thing. And
it could be no more. He could play the rest of the year.
And we also don't know, like, if he's actually going to get Alabama to the next level. Because so far, it certainly seems like he hasn't.
So here, there's a couple things here. One, you can't add Charles Bediako and get absolutely pumped like that in the paint. You just can't. Like, it's a terrible look. But 2, like, Florida's clicking at an elite level. Like, they did not have a good non-con. They are still figuring stuff out. The guards have started to play better for sure. But they've also leaned into this identity where they're just going to play out of the post and be this menace team defensively. And like at this point, Sam, and I've been talking him up all season. Like how many teams in the country right now would tell you that they would not trade their center for Ruben Chinyelu? Like he is
8.
one of the most impactful players in the entire country in my eyes right now.
I was going to ask, is that number lower than 10? And I think it might.
I mean,
be
let's see. Like
14
Michigan,
and 17 in this game.
Michigan, I would say Duke.
Baylor with James Najee. All right, sorry guys, I had to make
Kansas
that joke
with
once.
Flory, Gonzaga with Ike.
I think Gonzaga would.
I think Gonzaga would too. I think Gonzaga would absolutely do it.
We'll get to Gonzaga. Like I don't
think Houston would trade Tugler for him.
Yeah, I don't think they would.
Just because like he does so much to the way they want to play defense.
He is effectively the embodiment of like Houston.
Yeah.
So they would not trade the embodiment of Houston.
If you're considering Toppin the center for
I guess.
For this exercise, yes.
They wouldn't trade Toppin.
But I think that like this, it's kind of like they've kind of become Arizona light almost. Like you're going to play a bunch of bigs together. They're all going to be physically imposing. Alex Condon has really started to play better after a bad start to the year. And, like if the guards make shots, great. Like they're going to beat almost anyone. If they don't make shots, great. They're still going to have a chance against 99% of teams.
It's incredibly telling that they're doing this while Xavier Lee continues to struggle at times, right? Like I think it is so telling that they've just been able to adjust. And I think that the ceiling for Florida is through the roof. Like I think that this game proved that like if Florida is clicking on all cylinders, they're going to beat you in so many ways. They're going to just destroy you mentally. They're going to destroy you physically. They're going to make life a living hell. It is an incredibly scary team to have to play. And I think so much of that comes down to how they play. It comes down to the fact that they're able to play out the post. They're able to create shots out the post. They're also able to create looks in different ways out of the post. It's one thing to be a post team. It's another thing to be a post team that can create in different ways. And I think that's what Florida's doing right now. And I mean, I don't know like what Florida we get at sometimes. And I think that's the biggest concern I've got is like, do we get this Florida? Do we get a different Florida that we've seen this year? Because the answer kind of dictates how good they are on certain days. But this Florida with the way that they're playing is an incredibly scary basketball team.
To me, I don't know if there's 5 teams I would take over Florida in the country right now.
I was thinking
I know it's not
that.
Like a hot take to say that that a 7th ranked team in KenPom is a top 5 team.
So who do you Michigan for sure, right?
Michigan, Arizona for sure.
Duke probably.
And then maybe like Duke, Illinois.
Maybe Houston, because I think again
Maybe,
the Houston ceiling is really high.
Maybe
but
UConn, like maybe UConn.
I think I'd take Florida over UConn. It's a coin flip there. It's like effectively pick your.
I mean that game was a coin flip.
Yeah, like I think
was
that
incredible.
Like, I think that Florida right now is one of the best teams in the country, and that's the scary thing about this is that this is a national championship team that just looks as good, and it's like. If they continue to play at the level that we think they can play at and that we've seen from them over the last few games, this is a team that is a national championship contender through and through. They're a national championship contender regardless, but like they're probably one of the 3 teams that's like bound to win the national championship if they keep playing this way into March.
Yeah. I've got a stat that I'm about to pull up. If you'll just give me a moment. Since the injury to Kylan Boswell, which was 5 games, 5 games, in the 5 games since Kylan Boswell's injury, Keaton Wagler is averaging 24, 6, and 5 on 53% from the field, 50% from 3, and 75% from the line on 9 free throw attempts a game. Illinois in those 5 games is 5-0 with wins at Purdue and at Nebraska. The Illini are 11-1 in conference play. They have gone up all the way up to top 5 in KenPom, which we've discussed. And they play at Michigan State on Saturday, which we will discuss in depth tomorrow. But that Illinois-Nebraska game, I mean, Keaton Wagler is making his case for Big Ten Player of the Year, and I think I just discussed that.
I love those Europeans that they've got. That's all I've got to say.
So Sam, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, we were talking about Illinois and we were talking about Keaton Wagler. And I think you said something along the lines of like, he should be an All-American, and I said like, why isn't he being talked about like that? And like you were adamant that he should be. Well, now he's number 4 in KenPom Player of the Year, only behind Kingston Flemings, Joshua Jefferson, and Cameron Boozer.
There's a good chance he's like 2nd on that list if he keeps playing the way he does.
Yeah, I mean, like he's literally unstoppable right now. It's like I've been talking about this Illinois team all year and how I think it's the best team that Underwood's had, and like it's almost solely because of this kid. Like Kylan Boswell, who was playing really good basketball this year, goes out with an injury, and they've just gotten better without him. And it almost makes me concerned for him coming back because he's like gonna like kill their rhythm.
It's always so weird when we get a team like this where it's like they have an injury and we're like, hey man, should they like not play the guy the rest of the year?
Yeah.
But then you have to sit back and realize that like, I don't know, Kylan Boswell probably helps them, so they probably shouldn't just like not play him the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Like, I truly don't know, because the way that Keaton Wagler has found this next forum, the way that they're playing, like Brad Underwood might have finally done it. Like he might have finally found a team that can do it in March. Because I genuinely think that if Keaton Wagler continues to play like this, he's the kind of player who you get into March, you get into the Big Ten tournament, you get to the end of the year, and he's a guy who takes over games. And when you have a guy who can take over games like Keaton Wagler can, there isn't a game you can't win. There isn't a team you can't beat. Like, genuinely, we've seen this before. We're seeing this with Kansas right now to some degree with Darren Peterson.
Well, that's our next topic.
When guys are playing at the top of their game, like Keaton Wagler is right now, they're unstoppable. The team is unstoppable because he's capable of dropping 40 points. And it's genuinely scary to think about. The fact that Brad Underwood, all he had to do was take a little study abroad trip to Croatia to find his entire roster.
And then also Keaton Wagler.
Are we sure he's not Croatian? Are we sure? Have we ruled out that he's not Croatian?
We have ruled that out.
I went to the Illinois-Alabama game at the United Center early in the season, and Andrei Stojakovic was a total star in that game. And it was just him and Philon going blow for blow in the second half of that game. And I have not heard Andrei Stojakovic's name in weeks because of
who's that?
Like, and he's playing well. He's playing well. But he's just an afterthought right now because of how good this kid has been.
All right, moving on. We've got to talk about this whole Kansas situation, Jonathan. This has gotten weirder and weirder as the year has gone on. Kansas has now won 6 in a row since the loss to West Virginia. They beat BYU on Saturday in a game that Darren Peterson was the best player on the floor for 20 minutes and then did not play in the second half at all. And then Kansas almost blew the game. And what are we doing here with this whole situation?
Maybe Self just likes him playing in quarter groups. Like the Park District leagues, or the local YMCA leagues or whatever, where you have 10 players on a team and 5 of them play in the first quarter, 5 of them play in the second quarter. Like, maybe that's just how they're operating Darren Peterson. Maybe that's how they think he's most effective.
Yeah, I look at Darren, and can we talk about just how good he was in that first half, though?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the best player in the country when he's actually on the floor. Like, no disrespect to Wagler or Cam Boozer or anyone like that. Those guys are phenomenal, but Darren Peterson is a different level of player that we've really never seen before in college basketball, or at least not in a long time.
Yeah, I think he is the best guard just in college basketball since I don't even know at this point who was the last guard that was this good.
I've always said that Cade Cunningham is the best freshman point guard I've ever seen.
Cade Cunningham was a different level. I think.
I don't even think it's close between these two. Cade was a different level of player, but Darren just plays the game a different way. I mean, he 63.4 true shooting percentage on 31% usage rate is absolutely absurd.
Has there ever been a freshman guard as good?
Not in my lifetime.
Not that I can think of.
You would be hard pressed to find one, I think, in anyone's lifetime. The way he's playing when he plays, which is again the biggest story of this, is we never know if he's ever going to play until 5 minutes before the game, where they're like, "Hey man, do you want to put on a jersey today?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, I guess I'll put on a jersey."
And then he cramps up.
Yeah, and then he cramps up 5 minutes of the game, and we don't know if he'll ever play again. But like when he's on the floor, it is genuinely insane some of the stuff that he can do at times. For a guy who's just a freshman who was playing high school basketball a few months ago, right? Like the things that he can do on the floor on both sides really is kind of insane. It's so Jonathan, I'm glad you mentioned Cade Cunningham, because like that is kind of, I think, the true standard of what it can look like to be a freshman guard in college basketball and take over games. He's excelled that. He's exceeded that in every single way. The way he's playing, it's genuinely insane. And I know that we've talked about this before. This is a national championship contender if they're healthy.
Yeah.
And that includes their head coach, who we don't know if he'll be healthy, right? Like it includes so many aspects, which is why they probably won't win the national championship this year. But like when you have a guy like Darren Peterson, when you have a guy like, a guy like that who can just steal games, it's scary, man.
And they stole that game at Texas Tech. They stole it.
They were down,
Darren Peterson.
They were down 57-47 with 8:25 to go. They gave up 4 points the rest of the game. And that's like Kansas is a good team outside of Peterson, which is why we are talking about them the way that we are. But like this defense is good. And like Peterson plays 35 minutes. He kind of leads this comeback. And like, can we just talk about the three that he took to take the lead with 45 seconds left? Was an absurd shot. And
he's got some balls, man.
Like,
he's got some balls.
Completely ill-advised for like almost every player in college basketball history.
He set them up for a 2-for-1.
Yeah. This kid comes off a screen, takes a 26-foot three, and just buries it with 44 seconds left. And like there was plenty of time on the shot clock.
I was watching that. I went, "Hey man, why are you taking?" Oh, that's why you took that shot. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's the moment where I'm just gonna be like, "Hey man, if Darren Peterson wants to chuck it from half court, let Darren Peterson chuck it from half court. He probably knows more than I do." Like there is no bad shot for Darren Peterson right now.
It's insane.
Yeah. Jonathan, NC State has won 5 in a row. They're 8-2 in the ACC. They have the number 10 offense in the country over their last 5 games as well. Quadir Copeland has emerged into one of the best point guards in the country, Jonathan. He has 9 assists at least in his last 4 games. And last 2 games now, 26 assists and 1 turnover in those games. He almost had a triple-double against SMU. NC State ended up getting that win, just kind of holding on and surviving in that game. They were up 12 with a couple minutes left. They almost blew it, but they ended up getting the win. Darion Williams is hitting some shots. He's made 5 and 6 threes in the last 3 games. He is now shooting 43% from 3 on the season. Darion Williams is. NC State as a team is shooting 40% from 3 on the season. I believe that makes them the number 2 power conference team in 3-point percentage, behind only Iowa State, now number 7 in the country in that stat. And I mean, they still have their toughest games ahead of them. Duke still on the schedule,
which is a good
North Carolina still on the schedule, Miami, Louisville still on the schedule. But NC State is going to make the NCAA tournament most likely, and going to probably be wearing white in the NCAA tournament at this rate. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing that they have all these opportunities ahead of them, because they kind of blew every single opportunity they had in non-con. Like the Seton Hall loss looked really bad at the time. It doesn't look obviously as bad now, but they lose to them, they lose to Texas, they lose to Auburn, they lose to Kansas. Like, and Mississippi doesn't end up obviously being good. Boise doesn't end up being good. Like that was every single big opportunity you had in non-con, and they couldn't get it done. So like, I think it's a good thing that, after that and after the Georgia Tech loss, they still have all these chances ahead of them to get big wins.
Would also say Seton Hall has lost 6 of its last 8 and is free falling.
Certainly trending in the wrong direction, but it would do a lot. It would take a lot for that to be a truly bad loss for NC State.
Yeah, I mean, the
Jonathan,
worst is that it's like a quad
Quad
3,
two, yeah.
quad
I
2.
don't even
Jonathan,
think quad three is really that possible at this point.
I was watching Gonzaga play Portland last night.
I was
Oh.
too.
I think this is
Great
the
game.
first time I've watched a Gonzaga-Portland game in maybe ever. Because it was the first time
real
I
quick,
can
can
ever
I just
remember
say
this
those
game
Gonzaga
mattering.
jerseys are some of the ugliest jerseys I've ever seen, and I hope they never wear those again.
I turned it on
for a couple minutes. Yeah, because like the Portland home jerseys kind of look like the Gonzaga home jerseys with the grainy angle.
I turned it on and I didn't know which team was which.
I was like, oh, dude, Portland's looking really bad. How are they still winning by 15? And then I had to like double check. I was like, wait a minute, no, that's actually Gonzaga who looks really bad.
No, but I was really impressed with Joel Foxwell. But I mean, the story in this game has to it's Gonzaga losing to Portland. Like they had one loss all season, and it was Michigan, and now they have 2 losses.
Yeah,
they
Gonzaga
beat Santa Clara. They beat Santa Clara, San Francisco, and St. Mary's, but they lost to Portland. Really?
Yeah, Gonzaga had played with fire a little too many times for this not to happen. Now, did I think it was going to happen to this Portland team? Like, no, but you go to OT with Seattle at home. You almost lose at San Diego. You messed around with San Francisco the other week. It just they had played with fire too many times, and I don't think this Gonzaga team has the talent level of maybe 4 or 5 years ago Gonzaga that they can get away with that.
I was incredibly impressed with the way that Portland made it difficult inside for Graham Ike. And Graham Ike still had a terrific game, don't get me wrong. But they made it difficult for him. And I think like when you're playing a game like that where you're completely outmatched, you just got to make things a little difficult. You got to make things a little frustrating. And that's what Portland did so well. And Gonzaga, I mean, they just didn't have an answer, like at all. When it seemed like whenever they were trying to make a run, Portland was like, "Hey man, you want to see this cool new trick I just learned?" And they would just like make the coolest shot of all time and be like, "Oh, these Portland players might kind of have it." And then you realize they're like not that good at basketball all the time, but like that was an insane game. It's not a game where I'm going to like hit the panic button on Gonzaga. It's a one-off, game kind of just happens sometimes. They played with fire a little too many times. That was an insane game by Portland, though. Like it took Portland playing a damn near perfect game for that to happen. And I think that says a lot more about Gonzaga than it does about.
No, yeah, I agree. I just think it's going to look really bad.
Oh, it will not look good on any resume. When
it's a seed line loss. Gonzaga was tracking to be in the running for a 1 seed. That is not.
They're out of it now. They're out of it.
They
now.
They will not get
a 2 seed at best, and
they'll be a dangerous 2 seed.
They will be a very dangerous 2 seed. But it almost feels like they can't slip up again because it's going to be really tough, I think, to have 2 conference losses in the conference that you're in. One of them being Portland, one of the worst teams in the conference. And then you try and have to make the argument that you're a 2 seed. Like, I just think that's one of those things where it gets really iffy for them if they lose again. And they don't play, they play Santa Clara, they play St. Mary's. Those are the only 2 tough games the rest of the year, except for maybe Portland, because they do have to play Portland again. But like, it does become a little iffy when you think about like, this could just be a game where it's like, hey man, if you lose one more, are we sure they're a 2 seed?
You know what the advantage? You know what the advantage Gonzaga has, by the way, of like their seed not being that big of a deal, is like how many of these teams in the first weekend are going to want to go to Portland?
So like Gonzaga want to go to Portland at this point?
the memories might be really bad.
It's a fair point.
All right, Jonathan. Last thing that I want to discuss. The BYU-Oklahoma State game last night. Oklahoma State gets its biggest win under Steve Lutz, 99-92 against BYU at home. But for BYU, 1-4 in its last 5 games. The 200th ranked defense since January 17th. 349th in effective field goal defense in that span. Yes, a lot of that is because they're allowing 44% from 3 in that span, which is not sustainable. But this BYU team slipping at a bad time, now 9th in the Big 12 in defense. AJ DeBonsa has been great, and he's hitting a lot more shots now from the outside. Obviously, except for in that Arizona game, he was 1 for 8. But he's made multiple threes now in 3 of the last 4 games, including a 4 and a 5, which is higher than he had at any other point. Richie Saunders has been awesome. Rob Wright, I thought he's had some good games and some bad games, but they are getting really nothing out of the rest of that group at the moment. They got a little bit from Kennard Davis in the Arizona game, a little bit from him in the, but really nothing else from Kennard Davis in conference play, who is shooting 24% from 3 in league play. Keba Keita, I don't think has been particularly effective in league play compared to non-league play.
He hasn't been.
Mikhailo Boskovich has just not been very good in conference play. This is not a deep team whatsoever. I don't think they have a ton of guys off the bench that are productive. And with Wright, Saunders, and DeBonsta, like those 3 guys are awesome. But right now, that's not enough because there is nothing on the defensive end. They are not getting any stops.
They looked tired last night, and like you can point to their depth like being an issue, which we always knew that they didn't have a lot of depth. That's why they grabbed Abdullah Ahmed midseason. It's it's not a secret that BYU wasn't a deep team, but last night it really showed, and I thought they looked tired. They had 3 guys pick up 4 fouls. DeBanza had 3, and like their effort on the defensive end doesn't look the caliber of an elite team right now.
I'm concerned. I'm going to say, I'm concerned about them because I think that it's never a good sign when you play Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma State like that. And I get that those are 2, Arizona, Kansas are 2 of the better teams in college basketball right now, but that depth is coming back to bite them in the ass, and it's not going to get any easier. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned about what this looks like by the end of the year, because if it's, I think this is maybe not the start of the free fall, but it kind of feels like they're not going to find that same momentum that they had when conference play kind of started. And I think that is the scary thought, is that this might be a completely different team down the stretch. And I don't know if they have the depth to make up for some of the issues that they have with some guys not showing up every night.
Yeah, and they didn't have this great non-con to back up the start of conference play either. They beat some decent teams. They got the Nova win on opening night. They beat Wisconsin.
Jonathan, do you know where BYU ranks in Torvik right now?
In total?
Yeah.
26.
30.
Wow.
They're 15th in wins above bubble, which is very good.
This is what I was going to say, Sam, is this is why the whole Ken Palm is bullshit stuff that Doug Gottlieb was talking about the other night is irrelevant, because everything needs context, but there was a reason that BYU was sitting at whatever it was 17-1 or whatever they were, and not top 10 in Ken Palm. It's because a lot of the stuff they did was not backed up by them dominating. Clemson, they should have lost that game, and they battled their way back and got a win at the buzzer. The Wisconsin and Miami wins look better now, but those 2 teams weren't playing super great at that time, and same with Villanova. So they get the wins. Obviously the resume is more impressive than the metrics, but Kevin's right. I'm concerned for a handful of different reasons about this group right now.
All right, Jonathan, anything else you want to add before I take us home?
I just want to say that Houston's offense has completely turned a corner. They're back to the Houston we've seen the last couple of years, where they're going to slow you down, but they're going to be really efficient in their half court offense, and they're going to make you work for every bucket. They just hammered a UCF team that was playing really well and scored almost 1.3 points per possession while doing it.
We will talk Houston BYU tomorrow. Tomorrow at 2 Eastern, we will be live with Matthew Winnick to preview the weekend slate. That obviously starts with UConn St. John's tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden, where I will be. That includes the Iron Bowl of basketball. It includes Florida, Texas A&M. This is the biggest weekend of the season so far, Jonathan. And then we will be back most likely Saturday night to recap Saturday with Michael DeRosa. And then Sunday night, after the Patriots win the Super Bowl, we will be live to give you our Super Bowl Sunday kind of welcome into college basketball. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably don't need to listen to that podcast.
If Drake May wins the Super Bowl, we will be talking about it. If Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl, we will not be talking about it.
Hey, get me on the podcast. We could talk about Sam Darnold winning the Super Bowl.
And then we are going to be on emergency pod watch on Monday night for Arizona potential first loss of the season against Kansas for a pretty notable matchup in the ACC as well. Whoa.
What do you mean, whoa? He served this timeout. He served the longer suspension than Jeremy Fears is.
All right. And then on Tuesday, we will likely be back again for another show. So we could have shows basically every day from Thursday to Tuesday. But I'm excited for that. We do have plans to do a show next Tuesday at the moment. But we're really excited to bring you a lot more stuff.
Quick question. Will there be an emergency pod if FAU beats USF? Is that
No.
Oh, okay.
Because
God forbid
that
a white
game
boy
is-
has a little motion.
Kevin, you and I can do an emergency.
God forbid a
Because-
white boy asks for a little motion.
All right, Jonathan, you want to take us home?
Yeah, if you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he works, you came to the right place. If you came to hear about kids named Keaton from Croatia, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This has been Season 6, Episode 78 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. We'll see you next time.